Resuming debates, the honourable member for Calgary Confederation.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is my pleasure to rise today to speak on Motion 147, and I'd like to thank the honourable member from Saskatoon West for bringing forth this motion. And I am deeply disappointed that this Liberal government cannot support her motion. Sadly, not all Canadians have a place to call home, Mr. Speaker. Many more have wholly inadequate housing to call home. Having a home is a critical part of being a human and a productive member of society. Having a home, having a fixed address, is a stable foundation everybody needs. Canada has failed, all government at all levels, to fix Canada's homeless problem. In fact, it has continued to get worse as we throw more money at this problem. Housing advocates tell us that Canada has up to 8,000 chronically homeless individuals. These folks usually have associated mental, addiction, and social challenges that make them the most difficult to find housing solutions for. On any given night, it is estimated that roughly 35,000 Canadians face homelessness. These folks that find themselves in and out of the shelter system. And it is estimated that about 235,000 Canadians face homelessness every year. So let's just let that sink in, Mr. Speaker. 235,000 Canadians face homelessness every year. This is a group of Canadians making up a population comparable to the city of Regina that has a problem finding a home. We are short housing options for an entire city's worth of people. We essentially need to build a major city just to fix our housing problems. The time has come for us to honestly look at what we have done, what we are doing, and determine what is working and what is not. It's time to be honest with ourselves about our past efforts if we are going to improve those going forward. This is why I support the call for a special committee to put together a national plan to deal with homelessness. How can we not look at the housing issues when there are over 235,000 Canadians desperately in need? Every day when we walk out there and we see this temporary hockey rink that would have built an average 21 average homes in Canada, where are our priorities? Mr. Speaker, back in 2007, way back then, I chaired an Alberta provincial MLA task force to look at affordable housing issues. And we went across the province of Alberta to get input on the issues. We set out to find innovative and practical ways to make affordable housing more accessible and available. We focused on solutions for the homeless, affordable housing, including subsidized rental and home ownership. By bringing together representatives from municipalities, from businesses, community leaders, industry associations, political parties, and the nonprofit sector, we were able to get a broad base of expertise and knowledge in housing matters. We were able to build a large list of recommendations and policy goals for governments at all levels. While many of the recommendations were embraced, others were not. However, we were successful at getting a long overdue conversation going and millions of dollars directed to addressing this problem. My work with the homeless did not end with the task force, Mr. Speaker. For a number of years after, I served on the board of the Calgary Homeless Foundation. And this year will mark the 10th anniversary since the foundation led the creation of Calgary's 10-year plan to end homelessness. We will mark this anniversary, but we will not be celebrating. We still have a homeless problem in Calgary and across Canada. By all counts, it's getting worse. It's not getting better. 10 years after Calgary's 10-year plan to end homelessness, we still have too many homeless in Calgary. Those involved, they are working hard, Mr. Speaker, but the problem is growing. Much of the cause is beyond their control. The economic downturn, housing prices in Calgary, the opioid epidemic, and more. At the same time, the solution is not to build more shelters. We need to find a way to have affordable housing a reality. Mr. Speaker, one of the most cited psychologists of the 20th century, Abraham Maslow, published his now famous Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs. Basically, it summarizes the stages of human growth and ranked human needs. The need for shelter or housing is listed at the first level of need, right beside food, air, and water. Without adequate shelter, we cannot develop as humans. We will not move to that next stage of development until the first stage needs is satisfied. At the most basic of levels, we as a society provide emergency shelters. These are horrible places to exist, but they do offer a better alternative than the frozen streets and allow for folks to begin getting the help that they need. After that, there are various other arrangements depending on where you live and what your needs are. While they do offer a level of housing, shelters are supported living and not long-term independent living solutions. Canada, the taxpayer, cannot afford to pay for housing for everyone forever. As a nation, we need to find a way to create affordable, sustainable, dependable, and independent housing solutions. We will only truly address the homelessness issue if we get people into their own homes and not rely on shelters. Once someone controls their own housing situation, according to Maslow, they will only then be able to move to the next level and then on to self-actualization. The next level of Maslow's theory is called the safety needs and includes things like personal security, financial security, health, and well-being. Addressing all these needs obviously requires someone to have stable housing of their own. Mr. Speaker, the most affordable type of independent housing is the bachelor suite or the single occupancy unit. I would recommend that any study strongly address the need for more bachelor units in Canada. If we want to have more people living in place of their own, we have to work at increasing the supply of these more affordable housing options. For those with modest incomes, the climb from a shelter to a one-bedroom or a two-bedroom apartment is just too big. They need something affordable in between. Since 1990, the number of bachelor units has dropped dramatically, a 40% drop in the most affordable type of housing in Canada, and I just don't understand it. In my riding of Calgary Confederation, there are only 200 bachelor apartments. That means that just 1/3 of 1% of homes in my riding are bachelor apartments. The average rental rate for a bachelor apartment in Calgary is 20% less than that of a one-bedroom unit. It is about $825 a month compared to $1,025 per month. For some, this $200 difference between housing affordability and living in a shelter. For others, it is a difference between having to choose between food and rent. Another aspect that needs to be addressed is the shocking decrease in overall rental units here in Canada. Since 1990, the total number of rental units has dropped per capita by 15%, which has further driven up rental costs. In many larger communities, rental costs now regularly exceed average mortgage payments. So, Mr. Speaker, I will be voting in support of this motion. I will be supporting the need for the government and the organizations to address our affordable housing problems in Canada, and I reiterate that I am deeply, deeply disappointed that this Liberal government will not support this issue and this motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.